The colony was silent, but it was not peace. Broken walls stood like bones of a dead beast. Ash floated in the air, falling slow like dark snow. Somewhere far, a metal tower groaned as if it too remembered the war. She walked carefully through the ruins. Every step was slow. Every breath was quiet. Her skin glowed faint blue in the moonlight, a mark of her alien race. Long ago, her people had been many. Now, almost none. She was a widow, left alone after the soldiers came. For months, she hid, surviving on scraps, drinking rainwater that slid down the shattered stone. At night, she dreamed of fire. At day, she feared footsteps, and always one thought burned inside her mind. If the humans find me, I am finished. The humans had won the war. They patrolled the ruins, heavy boots crushing stone, loud voices filling the air. To them, her kind were not people. They were enemies. Enemies meant to be broken, silenced, erased. She knew this truth. She carried it like a shadow. That was why, when she first heard the sound of boots behind her, her blood froze. She pressed herself against a wall, heart racing. The sound grew closer. One soldier, maybe two. She did not breathe. She prayed the darkness would hide her glowing skin. But then a voice cut the night, a deep human voice. I know you're there. Her heart slammed in her chest. She turned, ready to run, but a beam of light caught her face. He stood there, tall and strong, armored chest shining dull in the moonlight. A human soldier, his eyes locked on hers, not cold, not empty, but burning with something she could not name. She shook with fear. She remembered the stories. Humans punished survivors. Humans destroyed widows. Humans laughed at pain. She braced herself for anger, for violence, for death. Her body tensed like a bowstring, ready to snap, but the soldier did not lift his weapon. He did not shout. He did not strike. Instead, he lowered his rifle to the ground, slowly, gently, as if telling her he would not harm her. Her mind spun. Was this a trick? Was he playing with her fear? He reached into his pack and pulled out a small metal box. With a click, it opened. Inside lay a piece of bread, rough and dry. Human food. He stretched his hand toward her. Take it. She blinked, unable to move. Her throat was dry, her stomach empty, but fear chained her feet. He spoke again, softer now. You'll starve if you don't eat. The words cut through her fear like a knife. No threat, no anger, only concern. Her hands trembled as she reached forward. Slowly, carefully, she took the bread. Their fingers almost touched. Warm skin against cool alien glow. She pulled back fast, clutching the food close to her chest. She stared at him, waiting for the hidden cruelty to show. Waiting for the wrath she believed was coming, but the soldier only watched her silent as if studying a ghost. Why? She whispered, her voice cracked from silence. He looked at the ruins around them, then back at her. His jaw tightened. Because I'm tired of death. Her eyes widened. She had never heard a human speak such words. He stood there a moment longer, then turned his back to her. For a soldier, it was the greatest risk, showing his unprotected side to the enemy. Yet he did it without fear. He walked a few steps, stopped and said quietly, I'll be back tomorrow. Same place. And then he left. The widow stood alone in the ruins, bread in her hands, her body still trembling. She looked at the food, then at the path he had taken. What game was this? What trap? No human had ever shown mercy to her kind. No human had ever looked at her without hate. Yet he had. The bread felt heavy in her hands, heavy with questions, heavy with danger. She sank to her knees in the dust, staring at the dark horizon. For the first time since the war ended, her fear had changed. It was no longer only fear of humans. It was fear of hope. Hope that maybe, One human was different. The next night came heavy with clouds. The moon hid behind smoke drifting from the old ruins. The widow sat in the shadows, waiting. She told herself not to wait, not to trust. Humans lie. Humans kill. But still her body sat there, her eyes locked on the place where he had stood. Her stomach twisted with hunger. The bread he gave was gone. She hated herself for hoping he would return. Then she heard the steps. Slow, steady. The same boots, the same weight. He came. The soldier stepped into the open, his figure sharp against the broken wall. This time he carried no rifle in his hands, only a canteen of water and another piece of food. He stopped a short distance from her. I said I'd come back. Her chest tightened. She wanted to ask why, but fear closed her lips. He placed the food on a stone and sat on the ground, keeping space between them. His helmet was off now. His face was young but marked with scars. His eyes looked tired, like someone who had seen too much death. Eat, he said. Slowly, she reached for the food. She waited for a trick, for the sound of hidden soldiers. But there was nothing, only silence. After a long moment, she asked, "Why are you doing this?" The soldier leaned, back against the wall, looking at the ruined city around them. Because war makes monsters out of all of us. I don't want to be one anymore. His words shocked her. Humans never spoke like this. Humans spoke of victory, of conquest, of enemies. Not regret, not sorrow. He looked at her then, straight, into her glowing eyes. I had a family once, my wife, my child. They died before the war even started. Disease, hunger, and still, I was told to keep fighting, to destroy people I never even knew. Tell me, does that make sense? Her breath caught. She wanted to answer, but the question stabbed too deep. She too had lost a family. Her husband gone. Her people scattered. Pain was a language they both spoke. He did not wait for her words. He lowered his voice. If my commander knew I was here, I'd be executed. They watch me already. They suspect I'm weak. Her heart thudded. This human was risking death for her? Then why risk it? She whispered. His gaze hardened. Because I see you, not as an enemy, as someone left alone like me. Her hands shook. No human had ever spoken to her like this. His voice carried no hate, only truth. But danger lingered. She knew humans were not all the same. She knew others would come, and she was right. Far away in the soldiers' camp, whispers had begun. Men muttered around the fires. They spoke of one of their own sneaking away at night, one who carried less anger in his eyes, one who looked guilty when orders came to burn, to hunt, to kill. Suspicion grew like smoke in the air. His commander, a man sharp as steel, started to watch him, but the soldier kept returning to her, night after night, each time with food, each time with silence first, then words. One night he asked her name. She froze. A name was power. A name meant trust. But his eyes waited, not demanding, not pressing. At last she whispered, Leora. He nodded as if carving the name into stone. I'm Callan. The sound of it filled the empty space between them. Leora and Callan. Not alien, not human. Just names. But danger pressed closer. One night when Callan returned to the camp, he found his commander waiting outside his tent. The man's voice was low and sharp. You wander too much. Where do you go? Callan's jaw tightened. Scouting the ruins, making sure no survivors remain. The commander's eyes narrowed. Good. Because if I ever find you protecting one of them, I'll put a bullet through you myself. Callan held his gaze, silent. His fists curled, but he gave no answer. Later that night, he went back to Leora. His steps were heavier, his breath sharper. She noticed it at once. You're being hunted, she said softly. He gave a bitter smile. We both are. She stared at him, fear burning her chest. If he was caught, he would die. And if he died, she would be found soon after. Their lives were now tied together by a secret rope, fragile and unseen. That night, neither spoke much. They sat in silence, two broken survivors beneath the ruined stars. And yet in that silence, something grew. Not just trust, not just fear. Something dangerous. Something like hope. The night broke with fire. Leora woke to the crack of gunshots echoing through the ruins. A red flare lit the sky, burning against the clouds. Shouts followed, human voices filled with command and anger. She pressed herself against the wall of her shelter, heart pounding. The soldiers were searching again, but this night was different. They were not hunting shadows. They were burning everything. Flames rose in the distance as humans set fire to old alien homes, the last remains of her people. Smoke choked the air, black and bitter. Leora's chest heaved. If she stayed hidden, she would burn. If she ran, she would be caught. Then, out of the smoke he came. Callan. His helmet gone, sweat cutting lines down his dirt-stained face. His voice was urgent, sharper than she had ever heard. "Leora, come with me. Now." Her body froze. Instinct told her to run from him, not toward him, but behind him the fires climbed higher. Soldiers shouted closer, the sound of boots was everywhere. "Move!" Callan barked, grabbing her arm. His grip was strong, but not cruel. She stumbled forward, fear tearing at her chest. He pulled her, through the burning streets, weaving between shadows and collapsing walls. Twice they ducked as soldiers passed near, their torches searching. Once, a flare exploded overhead, lighting them both in red. Leora held her breath, pressing close to Callan as he shielded her body with his own. The patrol passed, never knowing the enemy they sought was inches away. At last he dragged her into a broken tunnel under the ruins. It smelled of rust and damp stone. He led her through darkness until a hidden door creaked open. Inside was a small room lit by a single lamp. Human bedding, scattered maps, a stolen blanket. She froze, staring. This was no ruin. This was his secret, his forbidden shelter. He shut the door behind them, his chest rising fast. "You're safe for now." Her voice cracked. "Why bring me here? If your people find me, if they find us, they won't." He cut in. His tone was firm, but his eyes betrayed the truth. He was afraid too. Leora's gaze darted around the room. There were rations stacked neatly in the corner, a flask of water, even a piece of cloth that looked like it had been mended carefully by hand. This place was not just a shelter. It was a rebellion against his own people. Her throat tightened. "You risk your life for me." "Why?" Callan sat down heavily on the edge of his cot. His shoulders sagged under invisible weight. "Because every time I follow orders, I see their faces. The ones we burn, the ones we hunt, and I see her, my wife. I see what war would have done to her if she'd lived long enough to suffer it. I can't." His voice cracked. "I can't do it anymore." The silence that followed was thick. Leora stared at him, torn between fear and something else she dared not name. But outside, danger grew. That same night, in the human camp, the commander stood over the flames with narrowed eyes. Reports came in, ruins searched, survivors killed. But one thing was wrong. Callan had not reported back. "Find him," the commander ordered. "He's hiding something." Back in the hidden room, Callan leaned forward, rubbing his hands together. "We can't stay long. If they suspect, they'll search every stone." Leora hugged her arms to her chest. "Then why bring me here at all?" His eyes met hers, steady and dark. "Because you would have died out there. And I—" He stopped, himself jaw tightening. "And I couldn't let that happen." Her breath caught. He had no reason to save her. No order. No gain. And yet he had chosen her life over his safety. She sat across from him, silent. The firelight from the lamp flickered across his face, across the scars that told of battles, and across the tired eyes of a man who wanted no more blood. In that silence, something dangerous began to form. Not trust. Trust was too fragile. Not love. Love was too heavy. But something in between. A spark in the ashes. Then came the knock. 3 heavy thuds on the door above. Human voices outside. Callan's eyes shot to hers. His hand moved to his rifle. He whispered sharp and low, "Don't make a sound." Her heart slammed like a drum. The voices grew louder. The door rattled. If the soldiers outside forced their way in, the truth would be revealed, and both of them would burn. The pounding on the door faded into silence. For long minutes, neither Callan nor Leora moved. Her hands shook against her chest, her glowing skin faint in the lamplight. His rifle stayed raised, finger hovering near the trigger. But at last the footsteps retreated. The soldiers outside had left, for now. Only then did Callan lower the weapon. He sat on the cot, his shoulders heavy, his breath ragged. Leora stayed pressed against the wall, her eyes never leaving him. "They will come again," she whispered. He nodded, not denying it. "Yes, they will." The fire of fear burned between them, but under it another fire began to spark, one neither of them wanted to admit. The silence between them. That night, the ruined shelter felt too small. Leora paced in the corner, her bare feet brushing against stone. Callan watched her, trying to ignore the pull in his chest. Every move she made drew his eyes. The faint blue glow of her skin was soft, almost like moonlight. She stopped suddenly and looked at him. "Why do you look at me that way?" His breath caught. He hadn't realized he was staring. "I don't know." Her gaze hardened. "You saved me from fire, from soldiers. But what do you want from me?" Callan's jaw tightened. He wanted to answer, but the words were dangerous. He was a soldier sworn to destroy her kind. She was the widow of his enemy. Desire had no place here. Still, silence could not hide truth. His eyes betrayed what his lips refused to say. The touch later. As the night grew colder, Leora shivered. Callan noticed. Without speaking, he pulled the blanket from his cot and held it out. She hesitated, staring at it as if it were a trap. Finally, she stepped closer. Their hands brushed as she took the cloth, warm skin against glowing blue. The touch lasted only a heartbeat, but it burned through both of them. She pulled back fast, clutching the blanket around her. Her voice was sharp, though her eyes trembled. "Don't touch me like that again." But the words rang hollow. Because even as she spoke, she felt the heat of his hand still lingering on her own. The watchers, while the two sat in fragile silence, danger grew outside. The commander questioned his men, pressing harder. Where does Callan go? Why does he vanish during raids? Suspicion carved itself deeper into his mind. One soldier, bitter and jealous of Callan's skill, finally spoke. "I'll follow him next time. I'll find out his secret." The trap was tightening even as Callan and Leora fought the storm inside their own hearts. The confession hours later, as the fire in the lamp burned low, Callan broke the silence. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "You asked what I want." Leora's head lifted. He swallowed hard. "I don't want wrath. I don't want more war. I want something else." His eyes locked with hers. "I want to feel alive again." Her chest tightened. For so long, she had only felt fear, grief, emptiness. His words struck a wound deep inside her. "Alive?" she repeated softly. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "When I look at you, I don't see an enemy. I see someone surviving, fighting. And it makes me remember that I am still human, not just a weapon." Leora turned away, her breath quick. These words were dangerous. They cut through the wall she had built to survive. "You should not say this," she whispered. "If they hear you, you will die." He gave a hollow smile. "If they hear me, I'm already dead." The near betrayal that night. As Callan dozed, lightly Leora sat awake, wrapped in the blanket he had given. She studied him in the dim light, his face scarred but gentle in rest, his chest rising and falling, his hand lying close to the rifle even in sleep. Her thoughts twisted. This was the man she had once sworn to hate, a human, a soldier, but now, he was also the only soul who had looked at her without cruelty. Her fingers lifted, almost against her will, reaching toward his face. But just before she touched him, his eyes opened, their gazes locked. She snatched her hand back, heart racing. Callan sat up slowly, watching her. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence was heavier than any words. At last he whispered, "You don't have to fear me." But Leora's heart was not afraid. It was something else. Something sharper. Something that could destroy them both. The suspense outside. The jealous soldier followed Callan's trail through the ruins. His eyes narrowed as he saw the faint glow of lamplight in the distance. He grinned, whispering to himself, "So this is your secret." He turned back toward camp, ready to report. Inside the shelter, unaware of the danger closing in, Leora and Callan sat in silence, the air between them burning with unspoken desire. They were no longer just soldier and widow. They were something forbidden, something fragile, something the world would never forgive. And soon, the world would know. The campfire burned low, but whispers burned hotter. The jealous soldier stood before the commander, eyes sharp with triumph. "I followed him," he said. "Callan, he hides in the ruins at night, not alone, with one of them." The commander's face hardened, his jaw clenched like stone. "You're certain?" I saw her glow. "Alien, widow. He feeds her, protects her. He's a traitor." The commander's fist struck the table. Maps scattered to the ground. His voice was like steel. "At dawn we end this." The knock of doom. In the hidden shelter, Leora woke to the sound of Callan pacing. His boots scraped the stone floor. He was restless, uneasy. "They're watching me," he muttered. "I can feel it." Her heart tightened. "Then we must leave." He shook his head. "If we run now, they'll hunt us down. We need a plan." Before she could reply, the sound came. Heavy boots outside. More than one. The door shook under a hammering fist. "Callan!" a voice barked. "Open up!" Her blood ran cold. Callan motioned her to stay silent, then cracked the door open. The commander's hard eyes stared back. Behind him, soldiers waited, rifles ready. "You've been missing patrols," the commander said flatly. "You'll explain yourself. Now." Callan stepped outside, closing the door behind him so fast Leora was left in darkness. Her chest heaved as she pressed her ear against the wood. The commander's voice was low but sharp. "You think I don't know? You think I don't see where you vanish?" Callan's voice was steady, scouting the ruins, ensuring no survivors remain. A bitter laugh came. "Then show me. Show me what you found." Callan's silence stretched too long. The commander's tone grew deadly. "Or perhaps I should open this door myself." The escape inside, Leora's fear turned to fire. If they opened the door, she was finished, and Callan would be executed beside her. She grabbed the blanket covering her glowing skin and searched the room. Her eyes landed on the back wall. Cracked stone, loose bricks, a tunnel. With shaking hands, she pushed the stones away, creating a gap just big enough to crawl through. The sound was faint, but enough to make Callan's heart lurch outside. He raised his voice fast, trying to cover it. "Commander, with respect, I've given my life to this war. Don't question my loyalty." The commander stepped closer, his shadow long across the ruins. "Then prove it. Kill the widow you hide." Leora froze. Her blood turned to ice. They knew. Callan's fists clenched. His mind raced. If he refused, they would shoot him. If he obeyed, he would kill the only thing that still kept him human. His eyes hardened. "No," the commander's face twisted with rage. "Traitor." Before the rifles could rise, Callan slammed his shoulder into the nearest soldier, sending him sprawling. He fired his rifle into the air, sparks flashing through the night. "Run, Leora!" The shout reached her ears like thunder. Without thinking, she crawled through the tunnel, dust filling her throat. She burst into the cold night, the ruins stretching before her like a graveyard. Behind her, gunfire roared. The Hunt Callan sprinted through the ruins, bullets chasing him. He darted behind broken walls, his rifle barking in reply. 2 soldiers fell, but more followed. Leora ran ahead, bare feet striking stone, her glowing skin a beacon in the dark. She tried to cover it with the blanket, but the light bled through. "Faster!" Callan shouted, grabbing her arm as they turned a corner. A bullet struck the wall inches from her head. Stone dust rained down. They stumbled into an old tower, its staircase half broken. Callan dragged her upward, breath ragged. At the top they crouched, listening to boots thunder below. "They won't stop," Leora whispered. "I know," Callan said, loading the last of his rounds. His voice was iron. "But neither will I." The vow in the silence before the next assault, their eyes met. Sweat ran down his face, her glow trembling in the shadows. "You should have left me," she said, her voice sharp with fear. He shook his head. "I couldn't. You matter more than this war, more than orders, more than my life." Her chest ached at his words. She wanted to deny it, to push him away, but instead her hand reached for his. Their fingers locked, warm against cold. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. "You won't," he said, though his eyes carried no promise, only determination. Below, the commander's voice boomed. "Surround the tower, burn it if you must, the traitor dies tonight." The flames began to rise. The cliffhanger Leora clung to Callan's side as the fire spread below, smoke clawing its way up the stairwell. The soldiers' voices grew louder, rifles clattering, boots stomping. Callan raised his weapon, ready for the final stand. His other hand stayed locked with hers. "Whatever happens," he said, his voice steady despite the storm, "we face it together." Her breath trembled, but she nodded. The first soldier burst through the door, rifle raised. The tower shook with the sound of battle. The tower groaned like an old beast ready to fall. Smoke climbed the broken stairs, choking the air. Flames licked the stone below, painting the night in orange. Callan pressed his back against the crumbling wall, rifle in hand. His other hand gripped Leora's, steady but firm. Her glowing skin flickered faint through the smoke like a fragile lantern in a storm. Boots thundered below. Voices shouted orders. The soldiers were closing in. "This is it," Callan muttered. His voice was rough but calm, like a man who had already chosen his fate. Leora's eyes burned with fear. "No, we can still run." "There's nowhere left to run." His gaze was steady on hers. "But we can fight." The clash, the first soldier, burst through the stairwell. Callan fired. The blast threw the man back down into the smoke. More followed. Gunfire roared, sparks flying against stone. Callan's arms jolted with every shot. His breath came sharp, his shoulders heavy. He fought with the desperation of a man protecting more than his own life. Leora crouched low, clutching a jagged piece of stone. Her people had once been healers, not fighters. But tonight she would not wait for death. A soldier lunged toward her, blade raised. She swung the stone with all her strength. The crack echoed, and the man collapsed. Her chest heaved. She had spilled blood. Something she had sworn never to do. Her eyes found Callan's. He gave a quick nod. No words. Only the bond of survival. The commander arrives, through the smoke. A shadow rose, taller, broader, colder. The commander. His rifle gleamed in the firelight. His voice cut the chaos like a blade. "Callan!" he roared. "You shame your brothers. You spit on the blood of your own kind." Callan's jaw tightened. "My kind? You call this kind? Burning widows? Hunting the helpless? That's not my kind." The commander's lip curled. "Then you'll die as theirs." Gunfire exploded. Callan shoved Leora behind the wall. Bullets ripped through stone, fragments cutting across his cheek. He grunted, pain flashing in his eyes, but he did not fall. The fight raged higher. Callan fired, until the last round clicked empty. Soldiers swarmed up the stairs. He swung his rifle like a club, knocking one down. But another blade cut deep across his side. He staggered, blood spilling hot and dark. Leora screamed, rushing to him. She pressed her hands against the wound, her glowing skin lighting red with his blood. Tears blurred her vision. "You're hurt." He grabbed her wrist, his grip iron despite his weakness. "Don't stop. Don't ever stop." Her heart broke at the sight of him still standing, still fighting. The hidden strength. The soldiers closed in. Leora's chest tightened. She thought of her people, her lost husband, the children who would never be born, all erased by this war. Something inside her snapped. She rose, her glow blazing brighter than it ever had. The soldiers froze, startled. Her voice cut the smoke sharp and clear. "You want wrath? Then face mine." She lifted her hands, and from her skin, a strange energy flared. It was not fire, not light, but something older, something her people had once guarded. The soldiers shielded their eyes as the room glowed like a living star. The force slammed outward, knocking men back through the stairwell. The commander braced himself, teeth gritted, but even he stumbled. Callan stared at her, awe breaking through, his pain. "Leora." She turned to him, tears streaming down her face. "I cannot heal the dead, but I can fight for the living." To stand together for a moment, the two of them stood side by side, his rifle a club, her glow a storm. They fought together, every strike, every breath, bound as one. But the commander was relentless. He rose from the smoke, fury in his eyes, and charged. His blade met Callan's rifle, steel against steel. The clash rang like thunder. The commander drove the blade deep into Callan's shoulder. Callan roared in pain, but held firm, shoving back with all his strength. Leora screamed, and struck with her light. The commander staggered, blinded but not broken. His rage was too deep, his hate too strong. "You will both die tonight," he bellowed. The breaking point, Callan fell to one knee, blood soaking his uniform. Leora knelt beside him, holding him, her glow dimming with exhaustion. "They'll kill us," she whispered. His hand cupped her face, rough but tender. "Then we die together." Her tears fell onto his cheek. Her people had been erased. His heart had been broken long before they met, and yet, in this moment, they were not alone. Their lips almost touched, but the sound of boots storming up the stairs cut the moment apart. Callan gritted his teeth, forcing himself up. He raised his weapon one last time. "Stay behind me." The soldiers rushed. Flames roared. The tower shook. Cliffhanger through the smoke, the commander's voice rose again, louder than fire, louder than war. "End this! Kill them both!" The tower shuddered as explosions echoed outside. The floor beneath them cracked. Dust rained from above. Leora clung to Callan, her glow flickering like a dying star. His blood stained her arms, but his grip on her hand was unbreakable. This was no longer just a fight for survival. This was a last stand, and one of them would not leave the tower alive. The tower screamed as stone cracked and fire climbed higher. Smoke turned the air into a cage. Soldiers filled the stairs, their rifles glinting in the firelight. Callan staggered, blood dripping from his side, his shoulder torn by the commander's blade. His chest rose heavy, but his eyes never wavered. Beside him, Leora's glow flickered. Weak, her energy nearly spent. They had reached the end. "Stay behind me," Callan said again, voice ragged. But Leora shook her head. "No. If you fall, I fall too." Their hands tightened. Two broken souls holding on in the face of death. The commander's wrath. The commander pushed through the smoke, his armor blackened, his blade still sharp, his eyes burned with fury. "You betray your blood," he spat at Callan. "For a widow, for an enemy. You shame every soldier who died in this war." Callan lifted his rifle like a staff, though his arms trembled. "Better to shame them than become a monster like you." The commander roared and charged. Steel clashed against steel. sparks flying. Callan blocked one strike, but his strength faltered. The commander shoved him back, blade pressing closer to his throat. Leora screamed, hurling her fading light at the commander. The blast struck his chest, throwing him into the wall, but it drained her last strength. She collapsed, her glow dimming to nothing. The Falcalan dropped beside her, holding her close. Her breaths came shallow, her face pale. Leora, stay with me. Her lips trembled. I have no more light. His heart broke. He brushed a strand of her silver hair from her face. Then take mine. Her eyes widened. He leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. In that touch there was no war, no enemy, no fear. Only two souls refusing to die alone. But the moment shattered. The commander rose again, blood dripping but rage keeping him alive. He raised his blade high. Callan twisted, shielding Leora with his body. The blade came down, and the tower floor gave way. The stone cracked, the fire roared, and the world collapsed, the aftermath silence. When Leora opened her eyes, ash rained from the sky. She lay in the rubble outside the ruins, smoke curling around broken stone. Her body ached, her glow faint, but she was alive. Beside her, Callan stirred. He coughed, blood on his lips, but his arms were still around her. Even in the fall, he had not let go. She tried to move him, but his wounds were deep. Too deep. No, she whispered, tears burning her cheeks. Stay with me, please. He looked at her, pain etched in every line of his face, but his eyes were soft. I'm still here. The commander's voice was gone. The tower had taken him. Soldiers' shouts faded far in the distance. Somehow, in the chaos, the two of them had been forgotten. They were free. For now, the words unspoken. Callan's hand found hers, weak but steady. I thought I'd die long ago, but then I met you. Her tears fell onto his chest. And I thought I would live alone forever. He smiled faintly. Not alone. Not anymore. She pressed her face against his shoulder, feeling his heartbeat, slow but real. For the first time since the war began, she let herself believe in something impossible. Not wrath, not fear. Desire. Hope. The choice as dawn crept over the horizon, Leora helped Callan to his feet. His body was broken, but his spirit burned. Together, they walked from the ruins, leaning on each other. Ahead, hills stretched into the distance. Beyond them, rumors spoke of rebels, humans and aliens who rejected the war, who built a place for those who only wanted to live. Leora's voice was soft but steady. We can go there, start again. Callan's arm tightened around her. Together. She nodded. Together. The beyond, as the sun rose, its light fell on them. Two figures walking side by side, their shadows long across the ash. Behind them, the ruins burned, a grave for all the hatred that had nearly destroyed them. Ahead, the world waited, still dangerous, still uncertain, but alive with the chance of something new. For the widow who had braced for wrath and found desire instead. For the soldier who had turned against war to protect her. For two souls who chose each other against all odds. The war was not over. But for them, a new story had begun. And in that story, wrath no longer ruled.